Where's the map?
What do you mean, where's the map? I don't have it.
What do you mean you don't have it? I handed it to you.
Are you sure you gave it to me? I have been in front of you for the past hour, man.
We've got to find the car. We've been walking through the woods for hours.
It was on the other side of the Bellwood Cemetery. You thought when we left the grave sites of the Adams and turned around and started heading straight back, we would have been there by now. This is crazy, Joey.
The moon is in the same place. It's like straight overhead. It wasn't in the, it was in the horizon.
So, that was the east, or was that on the right side or the left side? Which side should it have been on headed back, Joey?
This doesn't make sense. I thought we were just coming to Adams to get some mosses. And you're just gonna take some photos, and it got dark fast.
Well, Joey, with the COVID and everything going on, we just had to see the Adams Cemetery, and we just had to.
Come for you, John. I will kill you.
I can't.
What was that, Joey?
Alan. What?
Run, Joey, run! Run! Oh, God! What? Joey! Joey! Where are you? Joey! Joey! Joey!
Alan,
where are you
where'd
at?
you
Joey!
I don't know. I don't know where Alan is.
Can you take me back when we were just kids? We weren't scared of getting older, yeah. 'Cause no one knows you like they know you, and no one probably ever will. You can grow up, make new ones, but truth is, there's nothing like old friends. 'Cause you can't make old friends. Yeah. Can you take me back when we were just kids who weren't scared of getting older? Yeah. Now I've got some good friends now.
Welcome to the show that has little to no meaning and makes little to no sense. It is the show where you can expect the unexpected. This is Nonsensical Talk, on the air and in the cloud. Those crazy hosts will talk about anything and everything. And now, from their home studios in Middle Tennessee, here is your hosts, Alan Robertson and Joey Smith.
All right, welcome to show number 4, Joey. 2 more left in the first season, man. It's almost like it's half over with.
I'm excited about this one, Alan.
Man, this one is, look, right here is the reason to be excited, okay? This is the authenticated history of the Bell Witch. And you and I have actually had some visits to Adams, and it's awesome. So let's first just tell you a little bit about the story of the Bell Witch, and so that way everybody kind of knows. I know people have seen different parts of movies, but hey, so how it all started was in 1804. John Bell, his wife Lucy, and there was about 10 people in their church that all picked up and moved from North Carolina, and they came to the Red River, Tennessee. And he was a very successful farmer. He was very well liked. He was respected. And so, there was a lot that was going on to make him that way. But, his character came into question whenever a scandal arose after being here for a little while.
Of course, the Batts family, Kate Batts and her husband Frederick, they also moved with the church from North Carolina to the Red River bottom of Tennessee. And Frederick had a farm accident. And after a while, the family became so desperate, he had to start selling off parts of his farm just to get by.
And some of that land was purchased by John Bell. And, they say the transaction that started a never ending conflict between those two families. Frederick's wife, Kate, she accused John of exploiting and taking an unfortunate situation and just taking a lot of liberties and, basically purchasing the land for way less than it was worth. So Kate, she swore that the Bells would pay for this this misdeed. So later, Benjamin Bat, which was Frederick's brother, he filed a lawsuit against John for extortion, and John knew nothing about this. So when it went to trial, and John failed to show up, it went in, the Bat's favor. And then it got back to the church.
And of course, even though that John protested the ruling, it would still lead to his excommunication of the church, which back then they probably didn't call it that. They probably just said, church members don't want you here anymore. But, with Frederick being immobile, Kate took over the lead of head of the household, and she was harsh, loud, spiteful, intimidating, and others didn't want to be around her.
Well, in 1817, long after he's been excommunicated from the church, John was working in his cornfield, and he saw this creature that had the body of a large dog and the head of a rabbit. So he took a shot at this animal, if you will, and he used an old musket, and smoke flew out of the end. But when the smoke cleared, that animal was gone. Later that night, he started hearing stuff outside the house, little raps of sounded like rocks. So him and his kids would go out, and there would be nothing there. Bell, you kept hearing this, so he thought it was old Kate Bat's family, trying to mess with them, and that's what he believed.
Now, of course, his suspicions of the Bats family would change when he started hearing the sounds in the house. And, he knew then it wasn't Kate Bats or any of her family. This sound was constant and began to affect the family's sleep. They didn't tell anyone what was going on. They tried to ignore it. But the activity started to escalate. It even seemed to target Betsy Bell, John's daughter, by pulling her hair and slapping her face, leaving red marks. John still told his family to keep quiet. But until a few weeks later, Betsy saw this apparition of a girl hanging in a tree, and then it vanished without a trace.
Well, let me tell you, the de-escalating it got worse, and then the family couldn't handle this anymore. So John, reached out to his great friend and neighbor James Johnson, and so James agreed to help John. He was a little apprehensive, but he actually helped him out. So James and his wife came over to the Bells that night, and they prayed for that evil spirit presence to leave that house. They demanded to know the name of the entity, and that's when they heard a voice say Kate. And so that really, got, them going. And so now they had a name to put with it. Well, James, he couldn't get rid of that evil spirit. So that's when he told John, he said, man, we need to bring somebody from outside in. And, John agreed.
With the haunting spreading quickly, many came to the house. I don't know if they came there to help, but they at least came to witness these poltergeist activities that they've been hearing about. Some would probably didn't believe in it, but all that came to the house would eventually know that feeling of evil and how that evil was towards John Bell. News even reached General Andrew Jackson, who wasn't president at the time. This was a decade before that. He took a small group of troops from Nashville, and just for a few days visit. One of his troops was said to have been bragging to his fellow soldiers that he planned to kill the Bell Witch. But when they neared what would become Adams, the wheels on the wagon seized up and would not budge despite all the efforts. They couldn't move the wheels at all. Jackson was said to have been heard apologizing for the soldiers' behavior, at which time he heard a disembodied laugh, and then the wagon began to move again. After spending one night, Jackson's troops was ready to leave. Jackson was even heard to say, "I'd rather fight the whole British army than to fight the Bell Witch."
Well, let me tell you, that started at the start of 1820. Lucy Bell, she suffered a severe bout of pleurisy, come near death, and they said that old Kate kind of nursed her back to health. So as her health got better, John Bell's got worse. So, you know, he got to the point to where he just kept going increasingly sick. And then on December the 20th, you know, they found him dead in the bed. Not to be a rhymer, but they found him dead. And there was a vial of dark liquid beside the bed on the nightstand there. And they suspected it to be poison. And old Kate, she stuck her up and says, "I fixed his medicine last night and gave him a big dose. He'll never get out of that bed again." Now, this was the first time in U.S. history that a documented death was blamed on a supernatural entity. So during the burial service, she just kept further tormenting the friends and family by mocking, laughing, singing songs, and it went on and on. But after the funeral, the activity started diminishing.
They would eventually come back. In 1821, Betsy was proposed to by Joshua Garner. Betsy again saw the apparition of a little girl who warned her not to marry Joshua. Then it vanished. Not taking any chances of the return of old Kate, Betsy called the engagement off, and Joshua moved away. But, you know, just know this, that this story has been told over and over verbally from person to person. So, you know, we don't know how many times it was embellished, as it was told throughout the over 2 centuries. But some even say that it was invented to cover up the murder of John Bell.
And some of the things that has never been, you know, unless you just read and read and read and find out, Kate Bates, she was actually kin to the Bell family. She was Lucy Bell's niece.
We've got a treat for you guys.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Let's go to Adams, Tennessee. So Joey and I are here today in Adams, Tennessee. We're nearly 204 years ago. The torment started with the Bell family. So we're out here today, and it started out with just some noises, and then it went and progressed to violence and eventually death.
Our story begins where John Bell moved his large family from North Carolina to the Red River bottom of Robertson County.
And we wanted to go to the Bell Witch Cave. We wanted to go into the area, but due to COVID restrictions, they are not taking any calls. So therefore, we're just going to basically go around and see what we've got here in Adams.
We're going to go up and down the Red River, look at some historical markers, and even see if we can talk to some folks about the Bell Witch. Welcome to Adams.
We're still here in Adams, Tennessee. We are located in front of one of the original buildings that was moved from John Bell's property, believed to have been built between 1810 and 1820 before his death. They moved it here in '96. So this was actually one of the structures, Joey, that was actually out on the Bell property, about 1.5 miles down the street here.
It says that this cabin was constructed the last decade of John Bell Sr.'s life. And so we're right here. If you want to come and visit this, the Adams Schoolhouse, this building's right behind that.
And also on the same grounds here, Joey, they do plays on the weekends in the month of October. Now this month is probably just a little bit different than similar to last year where they had COVID issues, but they actually have plays on the ground right behind us, or right behind you there, and they actually tell some of the stories. And I think a couple of years back they had 1,600 people here for those plays, and some of them were international, were not even in the state or in the United States. They came in from Australia, which I saw something on that earlier, and I thought it's far-reaching as being one of the most recognized hauntings in the United States, and almost, I think, in the top 3 around the world.
And I'll tell you, if you're in Adams in the fall, in October, November, you're just down the road from Port Royal, where we were just at, and you'll either see it soon. But there's one thing that they have in October and November. It's Port Royal by lamplight, and they take tours through the woods there at Port Royal, and you'll come across this campfire. And a trained historian actor will turn around and say, "Welcome, everyone. My name is such and such, and we've been having some stirrings around here," and reenact some of the storytelling of what's going on around the time of the Bell family's experience with the spirits. And so that's called Port Royal by lamplight, and so you can certainly Google that. And so there's a lot of events here. This is a great community, a lot of stuff going on in Middle Tennessee.
Right now we're inside of the last known house that was built on the Bell property. So this is called the Bell Log House, and it's located right behind the Adams Schoolhouse. Yeah. So ask to come in, because let me tell you, these folks down here are some nice people, and they accommodate for anything you need. If you want to come in and see the inside of an actual old log cabin built pre-Civil War, believed to have been built in 1810 to 1820, Joey.
That's right, and of course we've already had a chance to look inside the museum, and this is just another glimpse of the Bell family. Of course, this is a 20 by 20 cabin, this main area here. And of course, you see some stairs going up right there, that door that would take you up to where you could sleep. But this was upper middle class in the early 1800s, and it's hard to think that, but folks were happy to have a structure like this and have a farm.
Yeah. This was luxury. To actually have something like this, luxury. We look at it today and go, "Oh my!" But hey,
they didn't have a Lowe's then.
There was no home improvements.
So you weren't going down to buy paneling and crown molding. Things had to be milled by a carpenter.
Yes. So this house was actually moved from the Bell farm back in, I guess, the late or mid 1980s. They actually relocated it to here so everybody could come see. So if right now, being the COVID, you're not going to be able to get into the Bell Witch farm. You're not going to be able to go down into the cave and see that area there. But this is the next best thing, people, right here. You get to actually see a piece of the Bell property erected here in Adams, Tennessee.
because of COVID, we couldn't meet the Bell Witch, the spirit. So that's unfortunate.
Really
Actually, it's really fortunate. We didn't want to meet the spirit and disturb anything, but you hear all the train noise and the train going by. Adams was Adams Station, train station, prior to being just dropping Adams Station to just being Adams, Tennessee. So we're going to keep looking and digging and taking you on this tour with us.
All right. So here we are. We are in the Adams Museum in Adams, Tennessee. This is a great place to find history on the Bell Witch. Right here in center stage, if you will, is all of the different books that were written by the Bell Witch, or on the Bell Witch. It even has a flyer of the movie, which we're going to be interviewing JD on this, and so the flyer from that is in this cabinet as well. So great setup, and everything that you could want to find out about the Bell Witch is going to be right here in the middle. And Adams, Tennessee is rich with the Bell Witch.
Some other things that jumped out at me here in the Adams Museum. We were eating down the hall at Moss's, which is in the Adams School building, and the museum's just down the hall, and the door was closed, and we asked what time the museum opens, and City Hall's right across the hallway, and they said, we'll just open it up for you and let you look in the museum. It's usually open every day from
10 to 4 on Monday through Friday?
10 to 4 every weekday. But while we were in here looking at the history on the Bell Witch, something jumped out at me. And this is something that Alan and I have talked about for a later podcast. If you look over in this corner, it says The Night Riders, and there's a book written by Robert Penn Warren. Robert Penn Warren, born in Guthrie, Kentucky, and he was the very first poet laureate under Ronald Reagan. One of his proudest writings and his work of art was the book on the Night Riders, and where he had to do all that research. And of course, we're going to be covering some of the Night Riders, where farmers during the time where big tobacco conglomerates were putting pressure on local farmers to sell their tobacco at a certain price to them, and those ones that didn't come up with the agreement, they would try to push them out by undercutting them and only buying their tobacco pennies on the dollar. And so those farmers all got together in southern Kentucky and northern middle Tennessee, and they rebelled. And so we'll be covering some of the stuff on the Night Riders and Robert Penn Warren. But today, it's October. This is the time for pumpkins. It's a time for the season of the witch. We're here to show Kate and John Bell and the Bell family in the city of Adams all the respect. And we're bringing you along with us, so thank you.
So remember, Adams, Tennessee. We had a fun day out there. Good food, great people. Jeez, I mean, again, the people there. The one lady that was over I guess she was in the city hall. She opened all the doors for us. She let us in and just said, "Hey, go on. It's okay."
Let's take a look at the Bell Witch, the movie.
I know that was hard for you to watch in there, son. One day you'll understand why I acted the way I did.
Does this mean we can't go to church no more?
Those men in there, they're wrong. And they ain't got no right to judge me. Only the good Lord above can judge us. Don't ever put your faith in men. And remember, a church is just a building made of wood and stone. The good Lord don't necessarily dwell in it. You understand me?
That person playing John Bell in that clip was JD Hart, lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Alan and I got to have a conversation with him. Let's go talk to him right now. Today we are thrilled that that I live in Adams. Alan lives in Middle Tennessee. Well, we're real close to the Bell Witch and Adams, and the star of one of the best films and best soundtracks, JD Hart, played John Bell. And so, JD, welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I love your podcast, your presentation, your content, and congratulations. I know you're going to do well. Going to be a big success.
Well,
and I love what we're talking about today. Okay, and thank you for having me to talk about this legend, this subject of the Bell Witch. John Bell and I actually have one thing in common, okay? We both grew up in North Carolina and moved to Tennessee, okay? I grew up way out in the country in North Carolina. I had a chicken farm on my left and a pig farm on my right. And I made the move to Nashville in 1985 to work on being a country artist, which is why most people move to Nashville. And I was an MCA recording artist for a while. But I found something I loved better, and that was acting. And but anyway, it was very, very serendipitous about how I came to play John Bell in Bell Witch the movie. Now I'd never heard of Bell Witch until I moved to Nashville, and I'm sitting at Tavern on the Row, on Music Row, back in the late '80s. Okay. And there's all this strange noise that starts happening upstairs. It's unexplainable. And the people I were with said, "Oh, that's got to be the Bell Witch. That's got to be the Bell Witch." And I said, "What's the Bell Witch? What are you talking about?" Well, folklore is over years and years and years. They get sort of revamped and retold. And what these people told me is they said, "Well, don't ever get in front of a mirror and say Bell Witch 3 times or she will appear." And I thought, wait a minute, isn't that Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary? I won't say it a third time, but so I just thought, okay, that's interesting. Though what they just told me, they said, well, this is one of the oldest ghost stories ever told. That's true, okay, and I just sort of passed it off at the time, but never thinking that I'm going to be playing this guy in the movie. So anyway, to get to the movie, and excuse me if I just ramble on too long, but it was very cool because my wife and I were on vacation in Gatlinburg, and my agent called me, and she said, "JD, they're auditioning for a feature film in Sevierville." And I said, "Really, Sevierville? I didn't know there was any movie production companies in Sevierville." I said, what is it exactly? She says, I don't know. They won't tell me. They're going to use the working title called Tennessee 1, and I don't know what it's about. I said, can you get me a script before I audition, or at least some sides, okay? She said, they won't do it. They just want you to come in and audition. I can tell you they've looked at a number of guys for this role. They've cast everybody but the main character. And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. I want to go to this audition. So, again, usually an actor gets sides in advance, and it's not necessarily a cold read, but this was a cold read. So I go to Sevierville and the Cinemar Productions, and walk in, and they give me some sides, and they said, this will be a cold read, and we want you to read with the lady that's going to be playing the wife in the feature film. And I said, okay. So I started looking at the sides, and I saw the name John Bell on it. well, guys, my first thought was John Bell, the politician from Nashville that was the Speaker of the House in 1860. I'm thinking, this is movies about politics. It's about a politician. But then I started reading the sides, and the storyline just didn't fit with that. And I started thinking, wait a minute, there's another John Bell. Could this possibly be a story about the Bell Witch? Then I started getting a little excited, because this really appealed to me because I love horror movies, and that's mostly what I've done as an actor. So anyway, I did the audition, and the lady that I was auditioning with, Donna, was wonderful, and she looked so much like Sissy Spacek, and I thought, I've always been a fan of Sissy Spacek, and I thought she should be a great cast for this. Really had no idea how I did, but after the audition, the director, Shane Marr, who's an excellent director and an excellent person and a great friend of mine, he said, come into the studio a minute. And he said, I want to show you something. So he's got this huge screen, this huge movie theater. And he said, I've already made the trailer for this. So I want you to see it. Okay. Well, he played it. And Shane, excuse me, he likes to joke and play little tricks on you. Well, I thought, my God, this is the cheesiest, awful, amateurish trailer I've ever seen. This cannot be. And I'm like, yeah, it's really interesting, And he said, I'm just playing with you. He said, now I'll play you the real trailer, okay? Well, man, okay, so the trailer starts out with Jimbo Whaley, just a sample here.
You can go into the hills.
Yes.
Where an old church used to stand.
Had me.
When that comes on, it's almost like you're hearing someone's about to tell a story here.
That's right. You could, and I love the way he did the trailer because he didn't, he had no acting in it yet. It was just a series of shots very rapid shots through the woods, brilliant graphics, and then that song Foundation by Jimbo Whaley, which that's all you need, okay? And then at the end in the trailer, you hear the witch saying, I'm coming for you, John Bell. I will kill you.
Yes,
and
Betsy Palmer played a great spot.
Yeah, wasn't she? It was so wonderful to get to meet her because I'd been such a fan for so many years, even before Friday the 13th, where she was the real killer in the in the original. But it's just so then he played me the real trailer, and I thought, oh God, thank you. Okay, they know what they're doing. Okay, so he really played a trick on me. Now I still didn't know I had the part, so I thanked him for the opportunity, and he said, we'll be in touch. They always say that, and I go, yeah, right. But so my wife and I, we go on, and we were having dinner that night at one of the restaurants in Gatlinburg, and I get the call. And it was Shane, and he said, "You're perfect for this part. We want you." Okay, but here's the thing. Yeah, it was a great time of celebration, and because I really wanted to do this, especially with the Marr family. I met his mom and his dad while I was there, and I'm not your Hollywood type of actor. Okay, I'm a whole different breed of cat. So these are my kind of people, my kind of family. And so they said, we want you for the part. The biggest problem was they were going to start shooting in a week because they had everything in place but John Bell, the lead, and they only had the cinematographer or the DP for 15 days, and then he had to move on to Florida to do another shoot. So I didn't really have the time that I wanted to prepare as far as the look, the hair, the beard, and all that. And was hoping we'd have some prosthetics because, after all, John Bell was 70 when he died. Born in 1750, died in 1820 at 70 years of age. So I really typically when you do a movie, you like to have at least a couple of months to do research and study. And I wanted to go up to Adams and visit the museum and the cave, but there just wasn't time. So I did all the research I could online and did the best I could, but it was a wonderful experience. And we get into the shooting, the actual shooting, and I find out that we're shooting in Townsend, Tennessee, which is a beautiful location. I mean, and we're shooting in October, so the colors are just fabulous. Okay, and we're way out in the country, away from air traffic, away from telephone poles and lines that always cause audio problems when you're shooting on location. None of that, okay? Because they had Hollywood had left behind the old Christie set that they used for a television series in the early 90s. It was still there, and it was perfect for this. It was just perfect. So that's the story of how I came to actually get cast in the movie. And we had 15 days to shoot, and which is not a lot of time.
No.
Okay, 15 days, and I think probably 15 of those days, 10 days were rain, just lots of rain. We were working in mud 6 inches deep. Of course, a lot of people said that's the witch. The witch don't want this movie made. She's gonna mess with you, you know. And there were some crazy instances. I mean, my script would just disappear and move to somewhere else, and I hadn't moved it. And I thought, okay, she's trying to keep me from getting to my script and studying. And then I would wake up in the morning sometimes and have bruises on my body that I wasn't sure where it came from. But you know, I'd never really thought much about ghosts or spirits. I thought a lot about demons ever since I saw The Exorcist. In fact, I thought I was possessed for 2 weeks after I saw The Exorcist. I was 16 years old, you know. But, you know, so, and we, the thing that I really liked about, and thank you for saying what you did about this movie, because we really tried to stay as true as we could to what is called the Bell Witch Bible. Now, this is what I picked up in Adams later when I went up to visit. This is the authenticated history of Bell Witch by M.V. Ingram. Okay, and this was the first copyright, first printing was 1894. So, and then it was revised in 61, 74, and 2000. So this is, I think, is probably the most accurate accounting that there is. And that's what we tried to follow. We didn't want to sensationalize. We didn't want to hyperbolize. We just wanted to give the straight story, and which I think, you know, the Mars did a great job in accomplishing. Because later, when I saw Hollywood's version of it, I was like, okay, we can do that, but that's not the story. Okay, that's not.
They embellished some of the wonderful. They just took way more than it actually was, and I guess they Hollywoodized it, if you will. Yeah, is what I like to call it as.
Right, and the thing that hurt me most, and you know, if you have to edit this out, go ahead, but I mean, they made John Bell a child molester.
Yes.
And there's been no accounting of that. No one has ever throughout the 200 years said anything about
it. Ruined the end of the movie of their version. It ruined it. And it almost it made you think it wasn't ever a witch or any supernatural thing, when what's made the legend last this long is that there were so many witnesses that were hearing the same voice in the middle of town, and the voice was often coming from an animal, usually a cat. And I mean, there were so many accounts. Andrew Jackson, in his journal, wrote about visiting Adams.
And I think that's why the legend has lasted 200 years and is just as powerful today as then, because of all the witnesses, all the friends that John Bell invited to his house. His best friend, James Johnson. Mm-hmm. James didn't believe him, and John Bell said, "No, you come, bring your wife, and you stay at my house." And they were spooked out of their pajamas.
Of course, you had a scene when you were confiding on the front porch with someone, just letting them know, like, there's something evil here, and you were inviting folks to stay there, just like the accounts that just like we would do today.
I know, exactly. You don't believe me. So the best way to prove that is come stay in the house and see for yourself. And then, of course, like you said, Andrew Jackson, I guess General Andrew Jackson, one of John Bell's sons, served under Andrew Jackson and had told him about the events in the house. And Andrew Jackson said, "Well, I've got to come witness this for myself to see if it's real." And even on his way there, his horse carriage broke down. The witch started speaking to him. And then after he spent the night in the house, upon his departure the next day, he told John Bell, he said, I got to be honest with you. He said, "I'd rather fight the British Army than the Bell Witch." Okay, and that's a pretty heavy witness right there. That's pretty strong. And I think that's exactly why this story is true, that there was supernatural phenomena going on, and why it's lasted 200 years and why it still piques people's interest, because of the credibility that it has with the witnesses.
I agree wholeheartedly, and the reason why I think the American or the Hollywoodized version of it, they were going off of another book that actually was supposed to have been written by the professor, an actual recount of everything that happened with him and Elizabeth after the fact, and that was one of the versions, and I was like, man, that's embellished. They really got into that, and how do you know if that's true or not, right?
Right, right.
The accounts from Adams, Tennessee have to be right because nobody left there.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, we know that the witch hated John Bell with tremendous passion. In our story, you know, and going with the Bell Witch Bible, for lack of better words, it was over a land deal. That Kate Batts claimed that John Bell, who, by the way, I think he had like 300 acres of farmland, and this was an additional 60 acres that he wanted to purchase from Kate Batts' husband, and she said her husband was convalescing, disabled, not in his right mind, and that John Bell took advantage of him on the land purchase. And so she even brings that up at church. That's how he became excommunicated from the church, is because the church council, they were like, okay, John, you didn't do the deal right, and you cheated your husband out of land, and which he verified and showed the paperwork. No, I didn't. This is the amount we agreed on, and this is what we signed on. But she hated him for that. So in this film, Kate Batts has the power, I guess, to conjure up spirits. And as you see in the movie, where my two sons are in the cave and they find this old decayed body, and it has a number of hairpins in it. And Williams, my youngest son, he pulls the pins out, and that releases the spirit that I think that Kate Batts is in control of, and conjures up this spirit and can use as a shapeshifter, because, you know, the witch ultimately, or the spirit. When I think of a witch, I think of somebody that's alive. When I think of a spirit, I think of somebody that's dead. So we got the witch and we've got the spirit, which I think she conjured up, and told him, John Bell, point blank, I will kill you. I'm going to mess with you and your family for a while, and then I'm going to kill you dead. Which he did, and there was all these paranormal things going on, like the pulling of hair and tying hair to the bedpost with Betsy, my daughter, the pulling the sheets off, the pinching, the slapping, the daughter having bruises all over her, and the rest of the John Bell family as well. And so I think the haunting went on, I think, like from 1815 to 1820, and then he was poisoned. Now, in the way we showed that is Kate Batts had put the spirit into John Bell's wife, Lucy, and Lucy, under the guise of the spirit, administered the poison to John Bell, and he passed that way. But it's really freaky because that's the first time I've ever been able to attend my own funeral, because I wasn't working the day that I was buried.
Spoiler alert, too. I'm not going to say what the last scene was, but it is one of my biggest fears, JD. The last where you light the match. That's like one of my biggest fears. Yeah.
Well,
I've already told my wife, I said I want to be cremated.
It was my two. I have two. I'm opting for cremation because after climbing in that little box, and I was in the honey wagon until about 3 o'clock that morning. Because, you know, to light sets takes 5 or 6 hours. So if anyone doesn't know what a honey wagon is, well, it's a trailer with little compartments that the actors can hang out in. There's a little bathroom, toilet, you know, and air conditioning and all that. So I was called to the set at 3 o'clock that morning to crawl into the coffin. And of course, one of the sides are open, of course, for the shooting purposes, but I still felt the claustrophobia And I thought, man, no, because I've had several movies where they wanted me to lie in a coffin, and it's like, no, I can't do that. There's two things I don't do in movies. I don't pick up chickens, and I don't lay in coffins anymore. Okay.
So Joey and I, we were in the service, we were in the Navy, so we got to experience those coffins, because on the ship, that's what you sleep in, and virtually is that little, you got a 2 foot in front of you, and that's it. And there's 3 bunks, and you got a little curtain you pull across, and a lot of times you hold that curtain open a little bit because you're like, I just want to make sure that I can still see
have some air.
Yeah. That's claustrophobic, man.
And usually you're so tired. It's like Alan and I were in the Navy from like 1990 to 94, 98. And so it's been, 30 years since we joined the Navy, but Desert Storm was going on at the time. We were working 20-hour days because the war is going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're so tired, you just jump in there. You're asleep right whenever you hit it. And but I think about it today. I'm like, I don't realize how far down in that ship I was. If it sank or something like that, we'd never get out of it.
How would you get?
And you just lock it. And it's like a submarine, really. But
I'd
you're
be
so
sleeping
tired,
with a
you
floating
just don't
device,
realize the claustrophobia is all around you. And,
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you,
that
JD,
feeling.
on the ship I was on, I had the life preserver already picked out that if it ever was hit, I was going up there and hitting the button and hitting that one. That was going to be my raft.
Right. Very smart, very smart. And let me say, I appreciate your guys' service as well. And
thank you.
I narrate a lot of audiobooks on Navy SEALs, so I have a great appreciation and affinity for you guys and what you do in Navy as well as Navy SEALs and all other branches of the service. So, but that's interesting, man. It's that claustrophobic thing, and because when you're shooting a scene like that, I was probably in the coffin for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh!
To get everything lit right and done right, get the match to strike, because there's a little bitty strike pad that we had taped on the top of the coffin, and of course it's totally dark. So the problem was I pulled out the match and I couldn't find the strike pad, so it would take like forever to strike that match in the strike pad. But it was fun. It was a great experience. I'll tell you, one of the funniest things that happened to me that cracked me up when Cody that played my son Williams. After I was excommunicated from the church and came out, and we got on the horse carriage, and the horses are all loaded up, and I do this scene where I'm telling him, son, don't pay any attention to them. It's just a building made of brick and stone. The good Lord doesn't necessarily live there.
Great line.
These horses. Yeah, thank you.
Great
the
line,
director allowed me to improvise that.
Nice.
And again, that's one of the things I love so much about working with Shane. Is a lot of times he would say, JD, would you mind improvising this scene? We need to stretch it out a little bit. We need to make a little more meaning out of it. He would allow me that, and actors love that. Okay,
that's awesome.
I always loved to improvise. So that was an improvised scene. While we were doing it, the horses became completely gaseous. Okay, man, they were blowing it out. They were blowing it out so bad. I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld. There's a scene with Kramer and the horses, and there was that kind of thing, and it was just so bad. It's just and you go, wait, I don't know if I can do this or not because I can't breathe, and which worked for the scene because John Bell was already having his health problems at that point anyway, and having breathing problems. But
we're gonna have to watch that scene again, Alan, with a different respect. And everyone listening right now needs to go and watch that scene and go, hey, honey, you know what's going on right there?
You know what he's smelling right now? What's coming out of those
He's having a hard time delivering, even just being improv. He's having a hard time doing that right now.
Yeah, so it took me a while to find the movie because I ended up having to go to Vimeo in order to get it downloaded, because the last time was several years back on Netflix. I mean, it's been years ago, so it's kind of like I had to download the movie again and watch it just so that way I could get back in my mind what actually happened in that. But so I watched it last night again for the second time in 2 days.
Okay. So you saw it on Vimeo, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I meant to call Shane and ask him, because I went to the website. You normally you could purchase the movie on the DVD on the website www.bellwitchthemovie.com, and then, as you say, it was on Netflix. I know I saw it on Prime. It was on Amazon Prime for a long time. And then I started looking it up last night too, to say where is the movie at now? And I went to the website and it said go to Vimeo and subscribe for rent or to own.
I spent the $9.99 and well worth it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I got it whenever you guys came out with it, because I had heard that you had the red carpet premiere of it at the Ryman, and that's how I first heard of it. Is that they're doing this movie premiere at the Ryman Auditorium about the Bell Witch. So I was like, what a cool place to do that. What was that like?
Joey, that was so exciting for me because, I've been a fan of the Opry, particularly the Ryman, for years and years and years. And as an artist, I always wanted to perform at the Ryman. We never got the opportunity, but here we're doing the premiere at the Ryman. And it was sold out. It was very, very exciting. A lot of the Bell family came, the descendants from all over the country. They were there, and I got to speak with them after the premiere. Shane was going to do something very creative and original. It was meant to be satellite uplinked to, I think, 13 theaters, digital theaters around the country. But there was some technical problems, and it didn't quite happen that way. But it was a very, very exciting event. That's where I met Betsy Palmer for the first time. Obviously, her being the voiceover, and not having any scenes with her, I didn't get to meet her until the premiere. And it was such a delight to meet such a great actress. I mean, from just years and years, a great body of work from her. And she was just as sweet and down to earth as she could possibly be. And that was a brilliant choice on DeMar's part to hire her, and for the voiceover. And then I got to hear the great story about how she came to do Friday the 13th. It was they offered her $10,000, which was not a lot of money for Betsy Palmer, but she hadn't worked in a long time, and she's like, she read the script and she said, "This looks horrible, but I need the 10 grand." So
yes.
So here she goes, and does the movie, and it becomes a huge success. And she says, the thing I hate most about my career is that's what I'm mostly remembered for.
Well, she's now in there with Jamie Lee Curtis as one of the Scream Queens. So awesome.
Yes.
I mean, blow out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. No,
so
she was very, very thankful that she had the opportunity to do that.
Well, we did find the making of the Bell movie, and that was awesome because it actually showed Betsy told her story about how she actually become to do a voiceover. She was like, "What's a voiceover?"
Now that's a shock for an actress that's been around that length of time.
I know,
but I remember saying the same thing when I back in the 90s when. I auditioned for Chevrolet asked me to audition to be their national spokesperson on television, and I was in the music business at the time, and it was a casting director that called me and said they're looking for a guy like you that does country music, and would you audition? I said okay, and it ended up getting a 5-year contract with Chevrolet to be their on-camera spokesperson. And I'd sang the national theme song for Chevrolet back in the 80s called "The Heartbeat of America."
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, yes, sir.
Before Like a Rock came along.
Uh-huh.
The heartbeat of America. The only difference is I got paid scale, and the Like a Rock guy, he got $7 million. And he didn't even want to do the deal. They came to him and said, "We'll give you $7 million. You don't have to go in the studio. We'll just cut tracks from the song." And he said, "No, that'd be a sellout." But his manager changed his mind. He said, "No, you need to do this because this will bring you back and help your touring business again." So, but anyway, I guess the point in that was that in doing those commercials, they asked me, they said, okay, we're going to need some voiceovers from you. Well, I'm like Betsy Palmer at that point. Okay, well, I'm not sure what a voiceover is. And I started in radio, but we called it dubbing.
Yeah.
Dubbing and looping, and so I wasn't familiar with that term. And that was back in the day before digital. I would actually record the voiceover on a little 2-track Tascam recorder, and then splice it and then put it into FedEx and send it overnight. Man, that's like Stone Ages now because everything's MP3. Just that was reel-to-reel quarter-inch tape, and that's when I was in the music business, it was right on the verge of going from analog to digital. And I couldn't believe it when they told me at MCA Records, they said, your record that we just released is the last vinyl record that will ever be released. From now on, it will be CDs or DATs or eventually streaming music.
Yeah.
And I said, what are you talking about? Streaming music? MP3s? What is that? And it's like, and it's of course, it's all anybody uses now. But I just couldn't imagine music becoming ether, and not vinyl. Or
JD, when I first heard about streaming electronic music and particles above my head, I was picturing Willy Wonka whenever they were took the Mike TV guy and the little kid and digitized him, and his particles were going above the head, and it shrunk him on the TV. I was picturing what's going on here?
Exactly.
But something I wanted to ask you all this time, in radio and doing commercials, doing movies, TV shows, you've worked with a lot of great folks and a lot of, and that's one thing our podcast is about, is the positive stories out there and wanting to share that positivity. What was one of the best forms of advice that another actor or director it was like a gift to you that you just felt like a better person after that, and you were able to use that advice the rest of your life?
That's a great question, and I have many actors that I have tremendous respect for. Daniel Day-Lewis, Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins, Mel Gibson. There's so many great actors that I watch and learn from. But I'll tell you this simple true story. I was married to Gigi Garner, and that's James Garner's daughter, the actor James Garner, Rockford Files.
Yeah.
Maverick.
I think you guys, I'm so glad you're old enough to know that name, because most kids these days like who is that? Okay, yeah, he started with Maverick. He was a studio contract player. They were paying him $200 a week while he had the biggest hit show on television. Okay, because Jim told me all these stories, and it was wonderful because he went he grew up in Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma, and moved to California to find his father. His father had ran off to California, and he was just trying to find his father, and never did. He became a carpet layer, and he was laying carpet in a guy's house one time, and there happened to be an agent. And the agent said, "Hey, you're a pretty good-looking guy." He said, "I think I could get you some work if you want to do some acting or some modeling." He gave him his card. Well, Jim continued to lay carpet for a year, and his back started hurting. He said, "Wait a minute, there's got to be something better than this. Where's that business card at? I'm gonna call that guy." And then he got some commercials, modeling some underwear, and led to being a contract player for the studios, and then picked up Maverick. And again, they just paid contract players $200 a week, no matter what you did. So the advice from Jim, and there's different kind of actors. There's actors like James Garner, who really only has to be James Garner, and you love him just for that. Then there's actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, who can just transform like a chameleon into anything. Okay, and I have great respect for both of those kind of actors. But I would go to the set with Jim, and I watched him film Barbarians at the Gate and Fire in the Sky, and several other things. He even allowed me to write the theme song for his last television series, which was called Man of the People. And I thought, man, I really hit the jackpot, because Rockford Files, the theme song was the #1 on the charts, and it ran forever in like 150 countries. And I thought, man, I've hit the jackpot, because he was so nice to go to battle for me, because I was up against David Post or Mike Post and David Foster, and so he really went to battle for me to win the right to write the theme song. But they shut it down after, I think, 8 episodes, and this is the way Hollywood does people. They didn't even call Jim to let him know the show had been canceled. He just showed up one day, and they were tearing down the sets. Now, isn't it amazing that a studio would treat an actor like that? But to your point, and I'm sorry, I ramble so much. Jim, I've always loved and admired as an actor, and I asked him, Jim, what is your? I mean, I'm in the music business right now, and don't really care about acting, which that changed very quickly. But I said, what's your best advice? What do you do? What is your magic trick? And it was very simple. He said, JD, hit your mark and tell the truth. That was it. Hit your mark and tell the truth. Now, that's a simple line, but there's so much in that, okay? Because in order to tell the truth as an actor, you really have to know the truth of that character that you're portraying. And I consider myself a method actor, and I like to, I like different looks and different personalities, and to really, that's what's fun for me, is to get into the skin of somebody else and their mindset. Right. But that was the best, I think, the best advice. And of course, I've been to a lot of acting schools and had different teachers, and of course, always what you're aiming for is total believability. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Now, if you can be believable and make it interesting, like the Daniel Day-Lewis's and the Anthony Hopkins, I mean, Anthony Hopkins can just stare at someone, yes, and you're just like, wow, you're just hooked on he can be so intense. And but the short answer to your question, I think that really did it for me. Hit your mark, because focus is so important, guys, because if you don't get the shot in focus, and I had the opportunity to play golf with Clint Eastwood, and he was telling, because I'd go to the Bel Air Country Club with Garner and get to meet all these fabulous people and play golf with Clint Eastwood and Don Johnson and Ringo Starr and a bunch of people. But Clint, he always told me, he said, I like to get it in one take.
Yes.
He said, if it's there, he said, all I do is look at the DP and say, are we in focus? And if the DP says yes, I say, move on. No need in doing this, Stanley Kubrick thing of doing a scene 147 times, wearing out your actor or actress like he did Shelley Duvall in The Shining. He almost killed that poor girl. 147 scenes of going up those stairs, with Jack Nicholson coming after her with an axe. I mean, she was pulling her hair out, literally. And I think she went sort of mentally ill after that movie. Now, that's what I call abuse.
Yeah.
Clint's like, is it in focus? Move on. We got it. But, that mark is, there is a taped mark, and it's important, because if you don't hit that, you're not going to be in focus. And,
right.
And I think Charles Boyer was a great actor. I loved him. But you could always see him looking down. Every time he moves, he's like looking for his mark, and then his eyes go back up. He never quite got
I might
that
have to go
down.
back and watch some of his movies now, because
you ever watch a Charles Boyer movie, you'll see that. He's looking down as he's walking. We know you're looking for your mark. One other word of advice that I got from I studied with Talia Shire, who played Rocky, or Sylvester Stallone's wife in Rocky. I took some good, intense classes with her, and basically her 2 words were never act. Be. Because if you're acting, they will see you, and you can see that in a lot of movies, especially B movies, where actors, you tend to think, are they posing more for the camera? are they more worried about, is my angle right, than they are really the character? But I thought that was very wise. Don't act. Never act.
Well, watching the Bell Witch movie again last night, I kind of did see that, some of your other co-stars there, they kind of had that focus, but you were more relaxed with it. It was kind of like you and your wife were more in the scene, and they were kind of wanting to act the scene. Right.
Is exactly is what we're going for, what we're trying to do. And Donna was wonderful to work with, my wife. She was very, conversational, and could be in the moment, and that's where you have to be. I work very hard to memorize, all the lines in advance, and then just forget about that. Okay, I know the lines; they're in my head. Don't think about that again. Now it's all about putting the right emotion to it and being present in that moment of what's happening. And I wanted to show a lot of fear in John Bell. I didn't want him to be some kind of, manly man to the point where he's like, well, it's not that bad, because I know if I experienced what he experienced, I would be very fearful. The things that you can't explain, that are happening. God, I was shooting up in a cornfield in Kentucky about 6 months ago. And it was a horror short film, and
is it Spirit's Revenge?
That's the next one. That's the next. Well, we start that this month. Okay. This was a short film called Harvest, the Golden Harvest, or something like that. But this red blood moon started coming up over the cornfield,
Oh, nice.
And then we started spotting some UFOs up there that couldn't be explained. The way they were navigating, it's like nothing we had ever seen before. And it just kind of put the hair up on the back of my neck, and and we were spending a lot of time in the cornfield that night, and the corn was damp and itchy, and I'm scratching and itching, and there's a blood red moon and UFOs, and it's like, wow, man. Okay.
See, Joey and I used to do that all the time in the cornfields up in Kentucky, because when we were growing up there, that was how we had fun. We would run through them at night doing snipe hunts, or at least we were trying to get people to think they were doing snipe hunts. So.
Right, I know about. I went on some of those snipe hunts before I realized what was going on. Back when I was camping out and in the Boy Scouts and whatnot. Yeah, we're going snipe hunting. We did, where I came from. We did snake hunting. Oh, my dad had this thing where after a rainstorm, the snakes would come out on the old country roads and to dry out. Yeah. And we'd go snake hunting, and he would have a hook, and he would hook it up and put it into a box, and just, he would sell it or keep it or do something with it. But I never killed him. But I mean, that's just that was just something fun we did in the country, because we really didn't have that many things to do growing up.
No, we know.
But I miss that life. I really do, and I love my hometown. Wonderful people. I had a great experience growing up there, but it's like, how am I going to, build a music career or an acting career in a small town between a chicken farm and a pig farm?
You've got to go to the place that Nashville is the machine that does that.
Yes, sir. If you want to make country music, you better go to Nashville.
Yeah.
If you want to do theater, Broadway, you have to go to New York City.
Yeah.
If you want to make Hollywood movies, you have to live out there, and I could never do that. But I'm so glad that you guys thought enough of of our version of Bell Witch, because like you said, there've been so many of them done, and I really believe that for a low budget film that shot in 15 days, that we gave a good accounting of ourselves for telling the straight story of the Bell Witch, the truest story that we know, and we didn't move away from that. So,
Well, I know we've taken up a full hour of your time, JD, and
it's been a pleasure.
Man, I want to thank you for getting in here.
Thank you guys for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. I'm a fan.
Thanks, JD. Well, that was our conversation with JD Hart. Joy and I kind of went to Adams. Hope you enjoyed that trip. The story we told has been out of the authenticated history of the famous Bell Witch. You can go watch many historians that talk about this at YouTube. We tried to be as accurate as they are. There are skeptics out there. Those will also be on YouTube, and they tell stories of the Bell Witch, and they also tell stories of the cover-up for murder.
Alan, I think there's some gifts that we want to give our subscribers if they subscribe before in the month of October.
By October or Halloween night, if you have subscribed to us on the website, nonsensicaltalk.com, one of these could be coming to your house as a Christmas present from us here at Nonsensical Talk. I absolutely love the fact that there's people that subscribe. I love that people enjoy what we do. And I just want everybody to know that we do it because we enjoy to do it. Joey, we came, we saw, we didn't get on the Bell Witch property, but if you watched the first little bit of this or you saw the teaser, you can see that we may have been on the property or we may not have been on the property.
We were in the altitude of it, and but I will say we've got a lot of more stories that we're going to be covering. Edgar Casing, the sleeping prophet, born in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. That's something that we want to cover. We want to cover the Night Riders, the tobacco farmers that rebelled against big tobacco, and so there's a lot more stories that we're going to be telling.
And that's all within our little area. That's all within our little area.
Nonsensical. Absolutely. Yes. It's nonsensical. It just, there's no rhyme or reason why we're doing certain things, but we wanted to bring you the Bell Witch in October. We had to.
And we've accomplished that goal. There's still time for us to get to the spook house. But time is running out. I'm sorry we didn't get it for the show.
I'm sorry, but when you say spook house, it just makes me laugh. I'm not fearful at all whenever.
Hey, that's okay. I know we're going to the spook house. And even if
it's like you look at someone, we're at the spook house.
Hey, so here's the deal. If the 13th floor does not respond back to me, we're still going because you can record outside of it as well. So we'll go outside of it and record. We'll go through it, and then we'll come out and tell you our experiences, and that'll be a little bit that we'll put on during the month of October. So look for that coming up. Joey?
Folks, what you want you to do is follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and be kind to one another.